Hey, everybody, this is Producer Dave. Welcome to the Intellectual Dollar Tree. We do the show live every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Pacific on Twitch. That's twitch.tv/Echoplex Media. Some other asshole has twitch.tv/Echoplex. You can also listen on Icecast. That's you can just go to eplex.xyz or go to our website, echoplexmedia.com/live, and you can tune in, listen in your browser. You can listen to the Icecast feed just about anywhere. This will be episode 6, and well, shit, I guess I'll introduce my my co-hosts and kick the cameras on real quick here. Let me throw the cameras over. So I'm Producer Dave. This is what I look like. Across from me, the man with the plan, the guy who named this show. Who are you, sir?
I'm the Breadboard Baker, bringing music from the music store to the sidewalk. You can find me on Twitter at Breadboard Baker and Facebook and Instagram at Breadboard Bakery. And to my left, sir, who are you?
I am HK Perrin. You can find me on Twitter at HK Perrin, and you can find someone who may or may not be tangentially related to me at I Have Twitten.
Bless me, Father, for I have twitten.
Okay, so before we get started with this one, there's some dark and kind of heavy shit in this one. It's Jordan Peterson's recent interview with Milo Yiannopoulos. I think it happened over the weekend, if I'm not mistaken. If you're... We don't do a lot of these content warnings, and the people on the right are going to be, oh, your trigger warning. But there's some discussion of some child abuse and some ebophilia. And
What is ebophilia?
It's like you're a pedophile, but they're 13 or older.
Okay.
Ephebophilia?
So like teen, you're in teens, but not adults.
Yeah, there's a political compass, right? That it's like, you know, the authoritarian left is always something, the authoritarian right is always something, the libertarian left is always something, and then on the libertarian right, it always says, actually, it's ebophilia. If you just look up, actually, it's ebophilia, like on Google or something, it's like a pretty funny meme. But yeah, there's discussions of that, and it's just, and Milo's just an all around kind of bad person. So just thought I'd, you know, kind of warn everybody. There's some content in here that's a little bit disturbing to some, maybe to some survivors or whatever out there. So if that's not your thing, that's cool. You know, you can go grab episode 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Those don't have any of those weird discussions, but this stuff will come up again, talking about the intellectual dark web and the libertarian right. Trust me. So I'm just going to let it roll. I'm going to get started.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, here it is.
That's an intense logo.
I don't think it's done reassembling.
I'm speaking today with Milo Yiannopoulos.
Oh, don't do that. Well, actually,
Milo
Jordan
is a
Peterson.
hard man to categorize. Part journalist, part performance artist,
Maybe.
part agent provocateur, part comedian at wit and wit.
No.
Yiannopoulos is a man of immense and complex self-contradiction. He's half Greek and half Irish, but is known as an Englishman to the Americans with whom he has communicated extensively. He's gay and Jewish by descent. He married his long-term boyfriend, an African-American man in Hawaii in
Yeah, we're already like, these people, they hate identity politics, HK. Just so you know.
Okay.
Just so we're being clear.
Man,
So he's
you could have
gay
fooled me.
and Jewish, and he hates identity politics.
2017,
Gotta bring that up, though.
but faces frequent accusations of racism.
Because he's a racist?
He is or was strangely attractive to young American Republicans and completed a successful and controversy-ridden tour of U.S. universities in 2016 and 2017. For at least 2 years, he was one of the most well-known internet celebrities, let's say, on the political front. He caused more uproar than any other single person that I can think of. He collected his fair share of enemies along the way. He's often accused, for example, of being an alt-right supporter, an accusation justified in the view of those who oppose him by his association with Breitbart, for whom he was an editor. In my view, for what it's worth, Milo was such a figure of inner contradiction and outer controversy that I believed from the beginning that his time was numbered. Nonetheless, the circumstances of his demise were unpredictable, I would say, and that's in keeping with his apparent destiny.
Destiny? His destiny.
He's reading from a script, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's fine, right? If you're gonna, like, if we wanted to script out an intro for this show, that wouldn't be like a slight at us, right?
Well, yeah, but if he's got the camera on him 100%, I think he should be engaging in eye contact with the camera once in a while. But
I don't do that.
He's down. He could be reading his notes off of a lectern for all we can tell.
And you should also know that his time is numbered is not a saying. It's his days are numbered.
Well, yeah, but as we'll see with Dr. Peterson, he gets shit wrong all the time, and everyone is just expected to nod along. And bringing up that he's actually wrong would be a gross disrespect to the ponderous man before us.
Unfortunately, though, a lot of people have accused him of being intelligent.
They've accused him of being a public intellectual. Not the same thing, but...
Oh, that's what's up right there. Is like, just because you're a public intellectual doesn't mean you're intelligent.
Predictable, I would say. And that's in keeping with his apparent destiny. After revealing details of his early sexual experiences at the hands of a 29-year-old priest whom he refused to name, he stated that he was an active participant in the events and that such occurrences were far more common and far more consensual than people were willing to admit. I don't think he ever recovered from the controversy that those comments generated. I should finish by saying that Milo is definitely now on the list of those who no one acceptably socially should ever speak to, which I suppose is one of the reasons why I'm talking to him.
Because you're not socially acceptable? Did he just call himself not a socially acceptable person?
I think so, by implication. But like, he's the one that titled this Forbidden Conversation. And that just ties into, last week when we did Sam Harris having Charles Murray on. And what was that called? Forbidden Knowledge.
Doesn't look very forbidden to me. It was like the first thing that popped up on YouTube when I put both of their names in. I
think by forbidden, they just mean incorrect.
No. See, these wild conservatives are on the edge. They are edge lords, and they will be happy to let you know.
I want to know what happened to him in his own words, and I don't really give a damn if that's politically incorrect.
Oh, far.
Thanks, Milo, for agreeing to be on my channel and podcast.
Thank you very much for having me. I take a slightly less fatalistic view of my prospects than your introduction would suggest.
Okay, this guy's they're both probably, okay, Milo's broke, but Jordan Peterson is a fucking millionaire. You'd think he could get his fucking video and audio synced up.
And they're dropping frames.
Well, I mean, that might just be Milo's internet.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and when what's with... Okay, so Milo's outfit is missing a sport coat, and Jordan's outfit is missing a tie. Are they being rebellious in their fashion choices? Are they just not giving a shit? Are they putting on a pose of pretending not to care?
They're trying to look casual.
Okay.
I mean, I'm dressed pretty casual. I mean, and this whole thing's pretty casual. There's like felt behind the two of you. And behind me is like, you can see one of the cameras, but the reason I did that is there's also a picture of Madison Star Moon behind me. So we gotta keep what's important in the frame. Also an advertisement for ourselves, but,
I'm in a Zelda t-shirt. That's pretty casual.
It is. We try to keep it casual around here. I'm going to let this roll some more, and I'm sorry.
Certainly I went through an extraordinary tumble, and I'm happy to share my thoughts about it with you.
Yeah, well, let's start by reviewing some of your history, if you wouldn't mind. Mm-hmm. Tell me. Let's start with a bit of your history in the UK before you came to the US. It's been long enough so that I think some biographical information would be useful for people.
Big cut.
So, tell me about your life in the UK before you came to the US. And then let's start talking about what happened to you as soon as you came over to North America.
Sure. I had a very unhappy life, particularly a very unhappy 20s in London. I started off as a journalist in some quite prestigious publications. I was in a relationship that was, I don't think, healthy or happy for either person involved. I was searching, I think. I was looking. I couldn't work out yet what I was for, what my purpose was. And
Well, you figured it out eventually. Your purpose was to be a giant fucking asshole.
Oh yeah. He's going to get to that.
Oh, okay, good. I thought maybe we had not.
It wasn't until I got to America I discovered what it was. But I started to explore at least what would eventually become my, I suppose, my civic function as bomb thrower and provocateur. Right at the beginning of my career in journalism, I mean, I was fairly predictably come from a broken home, not much love for or from either parent. And I got lucky, combination, I guess, of luck and talent, writing for the Telegraph, which is the most prestigious newspaper in Britain.
What?
And
The what?
I began to notice the gap between the world that I was being
Hold on.
provocateur. Right at the beginning of my career in journalism, I mean, I was fairly predictably come from a broken home, not much love for or from either parent. And I got lucky, combination, I guess, of luck and talent, writing for the Telegraph, which is the most prestigious newspaper in Britain. And
Is that a thing?
I began to notice the gap
It's a paper.
between the world that I was being asked to describe and the world that I could see existed. At the time, I was writing about technology. I was being asked to say that women were having a dreadful time of it in the emerging startup ecosystem in London, which, as far as I could tell, was the exact opposite of the truth.
Yeah. So,
Well, as far as Milo could tell, I mean, he made a special effort not to notice that women were getting ignored, talked over, and passed over for promotions. And so at the end, he can very well conclude that he did not register any incidences of discrimination or oppression. So therefore, there aren't any. This is science Sam Harris style.
yeah, never mind the facts. Here's what I've observed. Like, of course, like you just look at like who the founders of those companies are now, and it's better now than it was before. When he was writing in the UK, I think it had to have been at least a decade ago, and it was nobody even wanted to talk about it. He was supposed to be writing about something because it was like a problem.
Yeah, it was called lad culture, and it was like what we in America would call bro culture.
And it's like rampant in tech. I'm encouraged and pleased that we've met some people in tech who work on this podcast network who aren't fucking douchebag bros. You and historian Matt, I'm talking specifically about HK. You guys are both pretty on the ball and have some compassion for other people and whatnot. Something that's missing in a lot of tech bro culture, I think.
Yeah, I think it is getting better in tech. It's still got a long way to go, but I think the fact that people are talking about it and companies are making a concerted effort to solve that problem helps.
Well, that's certainly better than the people who think it isn't a problem, which is what Milo's saying here, which is stupid because this was a while back.
Look at the sample size of one. How can you deny this?
Yes, he's young and white and beautiful.
And eventually these sort of fissures got wider and wider to the point where I sort of had this moment where I realized that my profession was a crock of what, and that if I wanted to do something worthwhile with my life, I should either blow it up from the inside by being one or pick something else to do. And that was around the time that I attracted the attention of Breitbart, the site in the US. And I started from London writing from Breitbart in the US. And at that time, I didn't really know what it was. I never met Andrew Breitbart, and I didn't know who he was either.
Yeah.
If you caught it there, he like pretended he didn't know what Breitbart was. Check this out. Like, how could you go write for something if you don't know what it is?
Attention of Breitbart, the site in the US. And I started from London writing from Breitbart in the US. And at that time, I didn't really know what it was. I never met Andrew Breitbart, and I didn't know who he was either.
Yeah, I don't think anybody knew what it was or what it was to begin with. And it's a funny thing when you look at things in retrospect. You get involved with people and organizations that develop a particular way over time, and then it looks from a historical perspective like that was self-evident from the beginning, but certainly not when you're dealing with a new organization.
Yeah, I mean, it was new-ish. I don't think that the values of Breitbart changed a lot, but I think perhaps its modus operandi, I think perhaps the way that it conducted itself as an organization shifted into high gear when Steve Bannon and I were there. And I was doing the culture war stuff, and Steve was using the rest of the site as the sort of battering ram politically. So, I bear a large part of the responsibility for Breitbart becoming what it eventually became, although I don't think they've held on to that legacy very well. I think it's a little sad.
Huh? He bears a lot of the responsibility for Breitbart becoming a shithole? I don't believe that. I think it was a shithole before.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It was like Andrew Breitbart. So a little quick history. Him and Arianna Huffington used to work together. I believe they co-founded the Huffington Post. And then Andrew Breitbart moved along and made Breitbart. So that's a pretty interesting little piece of history there.
Did not know that.
I also believe that
the world would be better if neither of them existed.
I think so too. The science section over there at HuffPo needs some help. I also, if I'm not mistaken, Breitbart also was trying to do Hollywood movies, though I could be getting him confused with Sebastian Gorka. I get my Unpunched Nazis mixed up sometimes.
Wow, yeah, I could just imagine the world's fiercest non-action movie starring Sebastian Gorka.
Sad the way that they're sort of. When I was there, we used to make the news, and now they're sort of chasing after Turning Point. With stories that could have been written in 2015, 16. I don't think they've managed to maintain the culturally defining excitement that was there when I was there, which I think is a function of me and Steve working together. I suppose my center of gravity just started shifting to the US. I started getting invitations to go and speak at colleges, and sooner or later, one day I just sort of thought there were 6 of them in a row, so I thought there was no point flying home between them. I may as well just stay. And just do sort of college after college. And then suddenly I found myself booking more of them and wondering why I should bother going home. And my center of gravity editorially and in other ways was shifting to the US too. So I, over the course of 6 or 9 months, began writing more about the States, thinking more about the States, being in it, talking about it. And then I suppose fast forward a year perhaps, and I was one of the 2 or 3 people driving, Breitbart as this extraordinary, momentous, fascinating, dysfunctional editorial force through the last election.
What the fuck is he talking about?
He's talking about the Zeppelin train that he was on, which floated above the crowd and crashed into it at the same time. It was totally awesome.
I wouldn't call Breitbart extraordinary.
No, it was dreadfully, dreadfully ordinary.
So we're going to skip ahead a little bit here to 9 minutes, 15 seconds. This is where Mr. Peterson apparently asked Milo Yiannopoulos why he thinks he was attractive to the Republican Party. This is the dumbest question. I mean, I kind of listened to this while I was doing something else the other day, and I don't really remember this part, but this is a really dumb question. Why would the Republican Party like a racist like Milo Yiannopoulos?
Yeah, because he says the things that they're all thinking.
He says the quiet part out loud.
Yeah.
See yourself pulling yourself, how you see being pulled out of that. I'd like to hear about that as well. Mm-hmm. So what in the world do you think made you so attractive to American Republicans? I mean, this is one of the things that struck me about you right from the beginning, because it's not exactly like you're a poster boy for what you would assume conservative American Republicans would be attracted to. So,
I think they quite liked the fact that I was reflecting their views in a package that you would more often think would be a liberal. And of course I, made that part of the act and part of the brand. It's kind of like, all these things and yet still Republican. But the real answer is joy. There's a joylessness about a lot of conservative activist authors and speakers. And there's a joylessness in the intellectual dark web too. It's a very funless place. And I look out at the public intellectuals and commentators and speakers who are currently enjoying a moment in the sun, and each of them is in their own way quite joyless, quite devoid of mirth. And I think that people liked my sense of mischief and my...
the fuck is he talking about?
I don't know, but he just went on and criticized the intellectual dark web.
They're all such joyless, dried up husks, like that fucker Jordan Peterson. Who does he think he is? And like, he's getting uncomfortably close to insulting his host here.
I think what he's trying to say is he's a troll and other people are serious.
Yeah.
And that's why people like him, because he's a troll.
Yeah. He's the stink bomb in the prom. He's the turd in the punch bowl. He's just that guy that everyone hates to have around. And we can't get enough of him, apparently.
And no, the real answer is he's a bigot, and Republicans like a bigot.
Yeah. And he's going to confirm some of their worst stereotypes about gay people. For instance, that older gay men are cruising for younger gay men to recruit into their wicked, degenerate lifestyle.
Speaking of which, I think we might skip ahead to that part if that's okay with everybody here.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
going to be at 1935 in this, everybody. Give me a second to get over here. I wish there was a way to just tell YouTube to jump ahead to a certain time point. There might be. I'll get better with YouTube because I'm going to be doing some streaming on my own, because I work from home now. So sometimes I got to wait for things, and we're doing some streaming from home, and I would like to learn more about how to use YouTube. But we're going to jump ahead to 1935 here. Here's where they talk about the incident that Milo says occurred between him and an older priest, which I have no reason to believe is not true, other than Milo Yiannopoulos is pretty comfortable saying things that aren't true, like in the mean. But I don't, I imagine that this might be a true thing, especially because of the way he brought it up in a conversation before. Anyway, here we go. This is where it starts to get a little weird.
And so I'd like to, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask you about that situation. Because, I had a lot of mixed feelings about what you said, like many people. And they weren't particularly judgmental, by the way. I mean, so you correct me if I'm wrong here, because I want to get this story straight. Mm-hmm. You related some experiences you had with a priest who was twice your age, right?
Something like that.
Yeah, approximately that. You were about 14.
Ooh.
I think he was a little older than that, actually.
Okay, he was a little older than that.
It's difficult to judge ages when you are 14. I think I thought that he was younger than he was at the time, and subsequently found out he was perhaps 10 years older than I thought he was. It's difficult.
Okay. So, but there was a
significant
age gap. Yeah, and so arguably he was someone who was in a position of authority, and that
arguably it was a priest. I don't consider a priest to be an authority figure, but to the people that go to the church across the way over here, there's a church across Winchester from where I live. Fuck, some goddamn men's rights activist is going to roam around Campbell now looking for this place.
Oh man, and yeah, he, the guy, some people believe that the priest has a special connection to God, that he is somehow, he has extra powers of veracity and spiritual infallibility. Of course he was in a position of authority over young Milo.
If I didn't know any better, I would say that the church was set up to provide that sort of infrastructure.
I thought you were for a second going to say provide that kind of service, and I was going to be like, oh no.
No.
Only adults can call it servicing when it's between consensual ones. This whole thing. Okay, so first of all, I don't care if the guy was 28 or 38 or that's, you just don't like. I date younger people. I believe you tend to like to date people who are a little younger than you too, HK, generally.
After my divorce, probably not.
Well, so I date people who are younger than me, but like not anything ending in teen.
Yeah.
Like things ending in 2 and 3 and 4 are pretty good, but things ending in teen, probably not such a hot idea, even if the guy was 28. No. I mean, maybe 19 or 20, if it's like a particularly immature 28-year-old and a particularly well put together 19 or 20-year-old with like a, it's maybe has some life experience that other 19 or 20-year-olds don't have. Maybe there's something there, but this, I don't know. I don't remember listening to this part. You haven't seen it before, and this is fucking weird and creepy.
Yeah, I've been soaking in it for a couple of days now. I feel really, really unclean, and we're not even a third of the way
What
through.
he did with you was something that he shouldn't have done. And also,
good job, genius.
It's highly probable, given the nature of such things, that you were by no means his only, let's say, target.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I heard you talk about that, the first thing that struck me about the way that you formulated it was your refusal to play victim. And I actually found
I didn't see myself as one.
I know that. And that actually struck me as rather admirable, because you came forward and said, this is an uncomfortable truth, but I was of sufficient age to have a mind of my own, and this was something I was pursuing of my own volition. And then
that is how I felt at the time. And
right.
When you talk about the abuse of authority or whatever, I've never met an authority I recognize or respect. People have to earn my respect. I have never encountered a person in a position of responsibility or authority who I have respected and deferred to merely by virtue of their office or their position.
Right. So it's
I sort of constitutionally don't recognize authority. So that element of it did not strike me until someone told me.
Okay. Well, that's the thing. Okay. So, I can imagine that, because I don't imagine that you were much different in some sense when you were 14 than you are now. Apart from obvious maturation, you're a assertive and provocative person, and you're an iconoclast. And I can certainly see that intrinsic respect for authority, which so oddly often characterizes conservatives, by the way, is quite absent in you. And so. And then I thought,
thing, isn't it? Because we have that's the tabloid gadfly constantly taking pot shots at the institutions that you also secretly love and are grateful for, but you are dedicated to keeping them on the ground and not. It's the difference between the British tabloids, which love to torment our Prime Minister, and the White House Correspondents' Dinner, where journalists are seeking to participate in that prestige. Mm-hmm. Rather than bring these people down to earth and make sure they never go a full day taking themselves too seriously. So I think that's perhaps a bit of the British psyche working.
Right. That seems, given my interactions with British journalists, that seems like a perfectly appropriate statement. Now, despite the fact that when I heard you speak about what happened to you and my admiration for your refusal to play innocent victim,
I would suggest to you that even if so, the kinds of people who are, I'll say Jordan Peterson, for example, right?
He's right in front of us.
Yeah. So if someone of the left did to a person what happened to Milo, they wouldn't be applauding that person for not playing the victim. Like, you're not playing the victim if you're 14 and you're having sex with a 28 or 38-year-old. You're not playing the victim. You were the victim of a crime.
Even if you wanted to do it
at the time, right? Because you can't consent.
Yeah.
I believe in Great Britain it's 16, and here in the United States it's 18, and you cannot consent. There's no, if somebody's 19 and somebody's 17, yes, you can consent. There's little, Romeo and Juliet laws that are, sensible to put in place, because you don't want to be committing a felony the day you turn 18, because your partner who's also a senior in high school turns 18 in 3 months, right? But outside of those things, this is absurd that Jordan Peterson, who's supposed to be a fucking psychologist, is sitting here saying, "Oh, you didn't play the victim."